All right, let's bring in our legal guys. Avery Friedman, a civil rights attorney and law professor in New York. Good to see you. And Richard Herman, a New York criminal defense attorney and law professor, joining us from Las Vegas. Good to see you as well.
Hi, Fred.
Interesting. Okay, so Avery, these are guidelines from the Obama administration, but states are calling this federal overreach. You just heard the Texas governor saying that this was blackmail. Are these valid points?
No. If he read it, he would have seen that it's only 6 pages. It identifies issues that are consistent with a federal court ruling, with policies of federal agencies. This is not breaking news. The fact is that it's the state of where the law is going. And frankly, the responsibility of the Department of Education and the Department of Justice is to provide that kind of guidance. So it's a tempest in a deep teapot. This memo is exactly what the government's supposed to be doing. There are no threats to funding. There are no threats to lawsuit. It's being overblown. One governor even called it a bayonet, a federal bayonet. No basis for that kind of conclusion. It's not the end of families in America.
And so, Richard, is it unusual for the Justice Department to extend this recommendation? I mean, clearly, there is quite the response, and as Avery just underscored, there are differing ways of interpreting what this means. So, is it unusual?
I think it is unusual, Fred, and I think it's a thinly, if at all, veiled threat to pull federal funding from states that don't comply. And we're talking millions and millions of dollars of federal funding earmarked for education for those states. But the transgender rights issue, Fred, it's in its infancy, and courts are going to have to determine this. Define transgender. What does it mean? And can it be brought on upon a spur of the moment? Can you have an identity crisis and all of a sudden say, I am now transgender? I don't know the issues here. I am a provocateur here, Fred. But it seems to me the millions and millions of dollars that are being spent to litigate this, and especially in North Carolina, when you have simple solutions of faculty bathrooms, the nurse, a single-use bathroom, on a minuscule portion of the population, while the courts can go through this, it seems that is the way to handle this. It seems to me, a complete waste of resources and energy when the school systems are crumbling before us.
All right. So Richard, you believe this should be resolved by states. The federal government shouldn't be involved. You do see that this is a veiled threat. So, Avery, a response to any or all of what Richard said, because you all see this completely differently.
Well, not at all. Look, you don't need to be a provocateur. I mean, the federal government, when women had to sign baby letters promising not to get pregnant to get a loan, or battling states that required Americans who were black to sit in the back of the bus. These are advisories. There is no threat in this case of litigation or holding up funds. It is an advisory and nothing more than that to help decency, to help diversity, to make sure that people that are struggling with issues like that, issues of gender identity, will not be harmed, that they are safe. Bottom line, it is the right thing to do at the right time in America.
But Richard, you're saying there is penalty that comes with not following the advisory, potentially.
I do.
There is not.
I think that's blatant here, Fred. For anyone to say it doesn't exist is ridiculous. But the issue is whether federal laws and the Civil Rights Act of 1964 protect gender discrimination rights. That's the issue. The United States Supreme Court will have to make that ultimate determination. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals of Virginia, Fred, just recently ruled that it does. Virginia covers North Carolina. So it appears to me, legally speaking, that North Carolina statute is now unconstitutional. Again, this is going to play out in the courts. And where do you draw the line, and how do you define gender? That's the big issue here, Fred.
It's not that hard, Richard.
No,
it's not that difficult to do. It's common sense and safety and inclusion. That's what this nation's about.
Define gender identity, Avery. Define gender identity for us.
It is what mom and dad, according to this advisory, says their child is, and a public institution like public school doesn't have a right to turn it down by insisting that you look at a birth certificate. That's wrong. That's immoral.
If an 18-year-old decides their gender identity, not their parents, who makes that determination?
It's in the advisory, Richard. It's
All right.
right there, and it makes it clear.
And we're going to leave it right there, and I think that underscores exactly, the kind of arguing and debating that is going on state to state right now. And well, I enjoyed hearing it from the two of you because there was no better way to exhibit what this battle and what this debate is all about, if not to hear you all, your voices. Thanks so much, Avery Freeman.
All the best.
All right, Richard Herman, always good to see you. Thanks so much.
Nice.
Take care.
Fred.
All right, straight ahead.